listening to Give God 90, where we're not afraid of the tough biblical questions, because we will dig through the language, the culture, and the history to find the truth revealed in the words of our Creator.
Hello, everyone. Thank you so very much for letting me spend some time with you today. Yes, I said me. Myra is still, she's still caring for her mother, and that may be another few weeks, so we will see. And I know that all of you out there miss hearing her voice, and I miss her too, I guess. No, I really do. When you have someone who is, far away, taking care of somebody else, taking care of family, it's tough. It really is. And not only is it hard on the people that, are kind of left to, I don't want to say fend for themselves, but you know where I'm going with this, right? It's very, very, very difficult on the family member who's caring for another family member. So prayers for all of that, if you will, please. If you have the free Spreaker account, you can leave a comment. That is absolutely acceptable. And actually, it's, I enjoy it. I like seeing the messages, and I have just put the scripture references I'm using tonight in the chat, so you will have that available. It will be there. If you're new here, we appreciate it. We really, really like our new folks, and welcome to the community. I want to start by, because I've got a lot of ground to cover tonight, so I'm going to start, I talked about Hawaii the other day. If you're watching Hawaii Real Estate on YouTube, you'll see some things that I think you'll agree don't quite add up. And one of the things they looked at was a car that had been completely burned in a very strange area. Let's just put it that way. And yes, I know that gasoline burns around, on the average of 2,000 degrees Fahrenheit. And that is hot enough to melt aluminum. So a lot of the things they're looking at from a layman's point of view can be explained. Some cannot. Let's just put it that way. There's a lot of things there. If you've ever seen a car that had been on fire, you know what they look like. You just give it a watch. It's hard to watch, but there's things going on. And now they have erected a fence to keep people away and the media away. There's, not to sound like a conspiracy theorist, but there's a lot of things there that just don't add up that we need to add up. So just take a look at that. Something else that was brought to my attention this week, and I thought we were maybe done with this, but apparently not. The Center for Disease Control is back in the news. By the way, that is not a true government agency. It's a private agency that is government funded. It receives government funding. Let me put it that way. They released a statement that cloth masks do not, let me say that again, cloth masks do not help with wildfire smoke. That, of course, coming in response to everyone wearing a mask in the affected areas from the Canadian wildfires. And this will come as no surprise to those who understand what a mask is actually designed to do. It's that simple. When you get to be my age, you can look back and remember things. And years ago, I had some work to do, and I bought a package of disposable masks that were supposed to be the best in their class at that time. Now, we're talking about the early 1980s, okay? Now, the warning on the package of these masks. I remember, and I wish I would have kept it. I only threw that package of masks away a couple of years, well, about 5 years ago now. It's moved around with me for a long time in case I needed them. But the warning on that package was you only wear the mask in 15-minute periods of time, meaning you'd put the mask on, you'd work for 15 minutes, and you'd go to where there's fresh air, take it off for at least 5 minutes so you could breathe. And it was monotonous, it was tedious, it was aggravating to say the least. And even back then, being young and immortal, so to speak, that lasted about 15 minutes for me. I tried it. I hated it. The reason they only wanted you to wear it for 15 minutes at a time was due to oxygen deprivation. It's that simple. Now, anybody who does any kind of air spray painting or works in an environment where there are particles of contaminants in the air has probably tried just about every type of mask or respirator type thing available, right? And they all experience about the same result. They hate them because they don't work. The only type of respirator that I know of that actually works are called the positive airflow respirators. And these usually have like a full face shield. They cover your whole face and your eyes and everything. And then there's a small battery-operated motor that drives a fan, and it actually forces filtered air into that mask. So it keeps the aerosols or the contaminants away from the user's face, because they're not tight-fitting. They're designed so that air that's being blown in can escape and keep those particles away from your face so you don't breathe them in. The problem with these things is they are expensive. And the filters are only effective for about 40 hours of operation on average. Of course, and I hate to say it like this, but the cheap filters that just about everybody's going to use with them are practically useless. The people who do a great deal of spray painting or applying some type of product via, air delivery system, will often, if they're doing this in a shop type environment, they will adapt these units, these personal units, to a larger filter system. So if you go into your spray room, you'd actually connect the hose to another hose that's hooked to a big filter outside and a big fan outside, so you can breathe. The filters last longer because they're not directly in the room with the aerosols. But that's for people who are in a room using some type of air spray matter. I guess I can say it that way. When you're in that environment, these things are very effective. The best ones are, they start the better. You can buy them for a couple $100, but the better ones are about $300 or $400, $500. The best ones can be $1,000. They're pricey, but they work. The average person doesn't need one, right? Because you're not in that kind of environment. If you're in an area of, where these weather folks, hi honey, I see you chatted with us tonight. If you're in an area where these folks are experiencing the wildfire smoke, I want you to understand that wildfire smoke particulates are large, when compared to other aerosol delivered contaminants such as bacteria or viruses. you can think of it this way. Now, most people know what a chain link fence is, and you've all probably seen the videos where somebody takes a bucket of golf balls and throws them against a chain link fence, and some bounce back and most go through. A cloth mask, even a doubled over cloth mask, is kind of like that chain link fence and smoke particulates. Now, let's compare that. Instead of golf balls representing smoke, take a handful of small ball bearings and throw them against a chain link fence. That would represent more of the bacteria size type things that would go through it, right? Take it down a little bit, because of most viruses are much smaller than that. It'd be like taking a handful of BBs and throwing it through. BBs are 177 caliber, which is not very large. So that's what we're dealing with. That's what we're talking about. So the same mask that isn't good for wildfire smoke was promoted as keeping you safe from a virus. And before some of you reach for that comment button, stop right where you're at. Yes, I realize that most masks will hold the droplets of saliva released when you speak. I get that. And that being said, I want you to understand this. Only sick people should be wearing the mask, not the healthy people. Remember most of you probably don't remember that back in the day when somebody had the measles or the chicken pox or whatever it was, they would be isolated. They would be confined to a house or a room, and they would be kept away from the healthy people. It's the same principle. Okay? When you're sick, why would you want to go to work and make all your coworkers sick? Or if you're in school, if you're sick, why would you want to go to school and make everybody else sick? It's just not the way life should work. Coal miners around the world for many, many, many years wore a folded over cloth, which is kind of like a double layer over their face, when they were in the mines. And what did most of them die of? Black lung, right? How fine is coal dust? It's smaller than smoke. Now, we are fortunate because we have developed, let me say this again. We are very, very fortunate because we are created with systems that help us survive many of these things if we're not overexposed to them. Now, in a coal mine, of course, you're overexposed to coal dust, right? That's not what I'm thinking about right now. But everything that the Creator has designed us with, whether it's the hair in our nostrils, the mucus in our respiratory system, even our immune systems, are designed to remove those contaminants from our bodies. If we're doing the things that He tells us to do. The problem is that today, so many people work in areas where they're surrounded by these aerosol contaminants that we had to develop certain protection, such as respirators and other tools that will keep us safe. And I wanted to mention this now because there is, in the near future, in a month or so, another go-round of the deadly diseases where the movement will be to insist that healthy people wear a mask or subject themselves to vaccinations or whatever the case may be. And I want everybody listening to me to remember that compliance is voluntary. Mankind is not designed to be a guinea pig. So who are you going to trust this time around? Who will you trust this time? Are you going to trust the Almighty? or are you going to trust some doctor in a laboratory somewhere? And you know, a lot of times these folks get paid through the companies they deal with, right? Whether it's the pharmaceutical companies, people pushing the drugs. I want you to remember that even this decision displays if you look like you're living the way you're designed to live. Do you look like you're living the way you are designed to live? Now, that's a big question, right? And I've had people over the years ask me, well, what does living like you're designed to live look like? Well, it doesn't look like you dress in a three-piece suit if you're a man, or it doesn't look like you dress in a 1950 style dress if you're a woman. So what does it look like? Now, I know I talk to people around the world on this podcast, and there are folks out there who can't afford a three-piece suit. They might not be able to afford a dress. They barely can afford to listen to me. We are designed to trust our Creator. And depending on the area you live in, how you dress, some of the things you do may be different than another area. But let's look at something David writes. Now, you know I like Psalm 119, right? I hope. David writes in Psalm 19, beginning in verse 105, "Your word is a lamp to my feet and a light to my path." Excuse me. Your word is a lamp to my feet and a light to my path. In other words, he's saying, God, everything you say is guiding my steps. I want everything you say to guide not only where I put my feet, but where I go. I'm going to continue here. I have sworn and confirmed I will keep your righteous judgments. I am severely afflicted, O Lord. Revive me through your word. Accept the free will offerings of my mouth and teach me your judgments. I constantly take my life in my hands, yet I do not forget your law. The wicked have set a snare for me, but I have not strayed from your precepts. Your testimonies are my heritage forever. They bring joy to my heart. I have inclined my heart to perform your statutes even to the very end. The double-minded I despise, but I love your law. You are my hiding place and my shield. I put my hope in your word. Depart from me, you evildoers, that I may obey the commandments of my God. Sustain me as you promised that I may live. Let me not be ashamed of my hope. Uphold me, and I will be saved, that I may always regard your statutes. Did you hear that, Christians? Uphold me, that I will be saved, that I may always regard your statutes. You reject all who stray from your statutes, for their deceitfulness is in vain. All the wicked on earth you discard like dross. Therefore I love your testimonies. My flesh trembles in awe of you, and I stand in your judgments. Now, I might have bitten off a little more than I can chew here, because I can unpack a lot of this. in about 6 or 7 hours. Okay? David makes the comparison between the Creator and his enemies, those who are trying to harm him in some way, and the Almighty who considers him a friend. He writes that the wicked of the earth discard the Almighty. They just write him off. He's no big deal. He writes that the double-minded people he despises, the people who say one thing and do something else. You see, you look like you're living the way you're designed when you follow the Creator's instructions. And yes, there will be some in your world who will persecute you in some way or another. Okay? It's just the way there is. And I know that some people, when they hear that word persecution, they think death is the result. That's not always the case. I was speaking with someone some time ago who is Christian, lives in a primarily Muslim country. Now, believers there have a very, very difficult time. Their children are often not allowed to go to school. Adults are only offered very, very low-paying servitude-type jobs, such as cooking or cleaning. That's persecution. You may not realize it, but that is persecution. And yet they endure it for one reason. They would rather endure the persecution from unbelievers than suffer an eternity in exile. It's that simple. You know, in the United States, believers are often persecuted through the court system. You've heard me say this before. You know, bakers who refuse to decorate a cake with homosexual references are taken to court. You know, they could have very easily found another baker to go bake them a cake. Builders who refuse a job because the design and the blueprints is sexually suggestive. They've been taken to court for, I'm going to bid so high on this job, you won't give it to me. We persecute farmers who sell their produce without going through the approved processes and channels. All of these things are forms of persecution. And yet these people maintain their faith. And even though none of them, if you look at them, look alike, right? They don't look alike. But what bonds them together is they're doing their best to live the way they're designed to live. Do they have a genuine understanding of what's going on all the time? No. They simply say, well, Bible says this. I can't do that for you. The Bible says this. I have to do this, no matter what you think. You know, the typical stereotype for believers is that they all wear a suit and a tie, right? You know, women wear a dress. But the outward physical appearance doesn't matter. It's your actions that matter. I personally know somebody, if you look at him, you'd think they were just some old weirdo hippie, right? But this person's actions display their love, respect, and affection for the Creator. Don't be deceived by what you see on the outside. You know, I got to go here. 1 Samuel 16:7. Jehovah said to Samuel, Do not consider his appearance or height, for I have rejected him. I, Jehovah, do not see as man does, for man sees the outward appearance, but Jehovah sees the heart. Our Creator looks at our inside, and our heart will guide our actions. No matter how good of an actor you think you are, your heart will display your actions. What you really believe, what you really think, what you really trust will show in your actions. And that's a good thing. Because that way, the rest of us can know if somebody's living the way they're designed to live, or, are they trying to deceive me? Are they being double-minded? Are they being a hypocrite? See, we can know if somebody's honest or not. We'll be able to know their intent. We can also know if, that's somebody we want to be associated with or not, right? Do we want to be close to them, or do we need to stay away from them? You see, it's time for believers to look like believers, not in the way they dress or because they're seen in a place of worship. Oh, he goes to church on Sunday. He goes to temple on Saturday. He does this. He does that. He does this. That's not what it's about. If you really want to look like you're living the way you're designed to live, you will look like you trust your Creator above everything else. I want to go back to David for a second. I have inclined my heart to perform your statutes. In other words, David says, I want, my desire is to please you. My desire is to follow your instructions. My desire is to do the things you would have me do. That is what it looks like when you're living the way you're designed to live. Uphold me and I will be saved. Uphold me and I will be saved. Why? That I may always regard your statutes. I may always guard. I may always keep. I may always attempt to do the things you would have me do. And by the way, that's Psalm 119, verse 117. Uphold me, and I will be saved, so that I may always do the things you would have me do. Do you want to look like you're living the way you're designed to live? Trust your Creator. Stop putting your faith in the things that people say. Because people can say a lot of things, right? But just because people say a lot of things doesn't make them true. The only thing that makes them true is when they completely agree with what the Almighty has already said. Look like you are living the way you're designed to live. Not in the way you dress necessarily, but in the things that you do. So until Monday, everyone, I offer you many, many blessings. Now, go look like you're living the way you're designed to live.